Okay, I've been working with some Hixton lately. This is heat treated a little bit, about 350 degrees or 400 degrees, I can't remember. We'll see how this works with the steel tools. Hixton works better with antler, I can tell you that right off the bat. But I've got a pretty good number of pieces of this size, so even if this doesn't work out, I've got some more. Now I'm not going to try to do anything fancy with this. If I can get it to a good lanceolate shape, I might leave it or I might notch it depending on how good it is. If it's a really good material, I might notch it. If it's hard to work with, I'll just leave it as a lanceolate looking point or preform. Now, it's usually hard to get long flakes on Hixton. The platforms have to be pretty strong. It tends to crush or produce short flakes. I've made about 3 points from it so far, so not too much experience. The last time I worked with Hixton was maybe 3 or 4 years ago at a nap-in. Because I can't get it here where I am, but it seems to be pretty common in Minnesota, I guess. See, those were pretty weak platforms. It just tends to crush the weak ones. I think with antler I could have done a pretty good flake there. Let's just see. Well, that's not too bad. A little bit of crushing. I think it went further than it could have gone with steel, but I don't know for sure. I made a biface with antler on a very good quality piece of Hixton, and it turned out okay. But I broke it as I was trying to reduce it further, trying to make a point out of it. So Hixton points are going to usually end up fairly thick, so you won't break it. I'm not getting very far with the steel as far as long thin flakes. I think the lesson I learned last time was if I make it narrow to start with and get it thin early, I got 90% of the problem fixed. But if I leave it wide and start to thin it down too soon, and then if I have some damage control to do in the middle, I won't be able to run long flakes into it, so I'm going to have to make it narrow anyway to fix that problem, if there is one. So the strategy is just to make it narrow to begin with, save some time. And yeah, I do remove some flakes with the abrader. Pretty common for me to do that on most of my points, as you can remember from my other videos. I got a lot of new guys tuning in, so for those of you who are new, I do use the abrader for removing flakes, longer flakes, and then little bitty flakes, and then for abrading or grinding or dulling or whatever you want to call it. Same thing if I'm using a hammerstone instead of an artificial abrader. I just broke this tonight for the video. Cheap grinding wheel for my bench grinder. I'm just taking off the sharp points off of the edges. Okay, I think this is as thin as I dare to go with the billet. Let's see. I got a new piece of plastic without the the bit from the pick that I drilled for and then stuck in there. This is the other half of the Walmart pick. It's driven in about a ½ inch or so, maybe 3/4. But I had a spare piece of ultra high molecular weight plastic, so we'll try it out. I already abraded that, but it didn't look strong enough, so I'm going to take it back a little bit further and abrade it again. Because it is very important to get the platforms just right, or as good as you can. I don't like making them perfect because then I get nervous and I end up hitting them too hard or whatever and crushing the platforms. I should probably do the base first. It's really thick before I hit it on the sides. That way I don't snap it in half. And I'm hitting above center line because I don't want to lose length. You know, I can take it back further, but I'll lose some length. So if I don't want to lose length or width, I tend to hit above center line to see if I can do it. If not, I'll take it back, lower the edge, and it'll end up being in the same spot that I would have lowered it before. So might as well attempt to take flakes from above center line to see how it works. So the footrest is wobbling back and forth. Okay, that sound just drives me crazy, so I don't want to have that sound in the background. Okay. Wish I could say this snaps well, but it doesn't really. It does produce sharp edges. But as far as nice flake patterns, it's difficult to do unless you're very methodical. And it responds well to pressure, so if you got a very big pressure flaker and a lot of strength, you can make some good pressure flakes. I haven't tried the pressure flakes with steel. I've been using mostly indirect percussion on the ones I've done so far. I do pressure at the tip, but we'll see what happens on this one. I suppose that's okay. It feels like some of the sandstone that I've napped before. I've tried to nap sandstone back when I first started this, because I didn't know any better. This has a weird tendency to not release the flakes. You end up with steps, some pretty nasty steps, especially if you're trying to thin it out when it's already thin. This is not even close to being thin, and I'm already having trouble with an island starting here in the middle. I'm having to go really high up on the platform to really dig into the stone to get those flakes to travel. I'm going to have to rip a real big one across here to get rid of that. And that wasn't too bad. That one stopped short. I've already got kind of a weird area here, so I'm going to try to blast through it. With some very aggressive percussion. I'm going to do one big one here. This is my platform. This is my platform right here. I'm going to try to, dig in deeply. Put the flaker higher up on the platform than normal, so I can dig in deeply to run a good sized flake. Maybe I can capture most of this with that one strike without cracking it in half. I think I still have a pretty good thickness to it, so we'll see how it goes. Now I hit that extremely hard, like I was hitting down at the base, and it didn't go anywhere. So I just use a different platform. Now I'm just going to beat it senseless. There we go. That platform was at or above center line, and I just went high up on the platform or even high up on the surface and then just hit it with a very strong strike that had the possibility of breaking the whole thing. But that's what you gotta do sometimes. You gotta hit it with enough force to break it. You gotta stay just under the amount of force required to break the whole thing. And you only learn that after breaking some. It's still risky though. You might think you know the limits of the stone and then find out that it broke at a lower threshold. Now that the weather's cooling down, I'm trying to get out and doing more napping, but there's also the pollen issue. Sometimes it gets pretty bad out here in the fall. So I'm a little bit hoarse today. Again, I hit that extremely hard, but it didn't go anywhere. Now with a piece of antler, I may have been able to get a longer flake. Antler or a soft hammer tends to take advantage of the crumbly aspect, and it'll initiate a flake, but then it'll be gripping onto the edge and it'll carry better than steel. Steel just kind of smashes its way through, and then hopefully the rest of the flake will follow. But as you can see, even with a stout platform, it crushed. Now I shouldn't be hitting on an already crushed platform, but there's not much choice at this point. Sometimes it almost feels like Hixton has layers in it, but I haven't napped enough of it to know for sure. I'm going to have to make it pretty narrow to get rid of these defects. But I can't make it too narrow because then it'll be too long for the thickness and it'll snap in half. So I don't recommend napping Hixton with steel. I just wanted to show you the difficulties. It's not easy to nap in any case, but using really hard material or a hard hammer is going to be challenging. Unless you like that kind of thing. Or you don't have a choice. That might work. Instead of going with the broader side of the flaker like this, I used the point of the flaker and concentrated the force in a smaller area. That might work better. I'm trying to get rid of these steps here. I might have done it, but it hadn't released yet. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, so if I concentrate the force with the pointed end of the flaker, I think I might get some better results. Although it's kind of counterintuitive because you would think that using a sharper end would make it crush more. And apparently it doesn't. Okay, this next stage is going to be critical because I'm going to have to do the final thinning on this because I'm not going to be able to thin it much more. So this will be, once I get some of these lumps taken off, that will be the final thickness, and I'll dress up the edges and maybe put some notches. Oh, I do have a notched pad, so I should probably try that. And this is sharp. It's a leftover from the napping the obsidian. We'll see how it works. I'm just going to dress up the edges for the percussion flaking. Not necessarily shaping the point, although I can do some shaping on the tip. Yeah, the pointed pressure flaker is working pretty good. Yeah, it responds pretty good to pressure. Pretty well. I made a small scalorn point from this the other night, and I did the whole thing with pressure. So if you can use a lever or a jig to do the pressure on this, I would do the Hixton with as much pressure as possible. Hixton just does not like percussion very much, from what I can tell so far with the few that I've done. Yeah, I'm just going to have to really be aggressive to get some of those big lumps off. If I had a jig, a levered jig or something with a big pressure flaker, I'd do this all with pressure. From this stage, you know, I'd probably biface it out with a soft hammer and then finish it with pressure. But I'll continue on the next video.